She saved the sterile millionaire's life, spent a night with him, and vanished. 2 years later, their reunion shocked. His fingers wrapped around her wrist as consciousness returned, sending an unexpected current through her body that had nothing to do with the improvised shock she'd just delivered. Have you ever locked eyes with a complete stranger and felt something inexplicable? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. She had exactly 47 seconds to save the life of a man who would never know her name. At least that was the plan until his eyes locked with hers as she pushed the makeshift defibrillator to his chest. Ava Johnson didn't belong in Atlanta's International Airport that morning. A last-minute shift swap had her racing through Terminal B when the crowd parted like water breaking against stone. At the center lay a man in an expensive suit, face gray, no pulse. "I'm a nurse," she announced, dropping her bag and falling to her knees beside him. Nobody moved. Nobody helped. Just phones recording what might become a death on marble floors beneath fluorescent lights. The airport's medical team was 7 minutes out. He had less than one. Ava's hands moved with practiced precision despite having worked a double shift. She loosened his silk tie, tore open his shirt, sending buttons scattering across polished floors. "Sir, can you hear me?" Nothing. No pulse. No response. Time collapsed into heartbeats. Not his, but her own, drumming against her ribs as she started compressions. 1, 2, 3, 4, counting under her breath, watching his face for any sign of life. Behind her, whispers rippled through the crowd. "That's Logan Pierce," someone murmured. "The tech guy, billionaire." Money meant nothing now. On this floor, he was just a body with a stopped heart. Ava worked faster. When the AED she requested didn't arrive quickly enough, she improvised with items from her bag and a businessman's laptop battery. Dangerous, unconventional, but his heart had been stopped for nearly 2 minutes. "Clear," she whispered, knowing this might kill him if his heart didn't restart naturally. The jolt passed through him. His body arched slightly. Then nothing. Ava tried again. "Come on," she urged, sweat beading on her forehead as she positioned the makeshift paddles. "Not today. Not on my watch." The second shock hit. His eyes flew open, piercing blue against ashen skin, finding hers immediately as his lungs filled with a desperate gasp. His fingers wrapped around her wrist as consciousness returned, sending an unexpected current through her body that had nothing to do with the improvised shock she'd just delivered. "You're okay," she soothed, professional mask firmly in place despite the strange flutter in her chest. "Help is coming. Just breathe." For 11 seconds, they existed in perfect stillness while chaos swirled around them. His eyes never left hers. When his security team arrived with private medical staff, Ava slipped away into the crowd, but not before he whispered, "I need to find you," words that would haunt her dreams long after she'd washed his blood from her hands. Have you ever locked eyes with a complete stranger and felt something inexplicable? That moment when the universe seems to pause just for you two? Share your experience in the comments. The wealthiest man in Boston stood in the doorway of her cramped break room, looking as out of place as hope in an emergency room during a holiday weekend. Ava nearly dropped her lukewarm coffee. 3 days had passed since the airport incident, and she convinced herself it was over. Yet here stood Logan Pierce, alive, imposing, and somehow more handsome than when he was dying on marble floors. "Ms. Johnson," his voice filled the small space. "You're difficult to track down." "That's intentional," she replied, straightening her scrubs. "How did you find me?" "I build technology systems that find patterns in chaos." Locating the woman who saved my life was... He paused, his gaze unsettling, a priority. Behind him, 2 men in dark suits surveyed the hospital corridor. Bodyguards, obviously. Patients and staff stared openly. "You didn't need to come here," Ava said, uncomfortable with the attention. "A thank you note would have been fine. I don't send notes." Something flickered across his face, vulnerability quickly masked by confidence. "I'm staying in Atlanta another night. For observation. Medical recommendation." She raised an eyebrow. And what does that have to do with me? I'm in a private recovery suite downtown. The doctor suggested having a medical professional nearby. He hesitated, uncharacteristic for a man who commanded boardrooms. I'd like that person to be you. Ava laughed, the sound sharp against institutional walls. Mr. Pierce, I just finished a 12-hour shift. I'm not for hire. One night, triple your hospital rate. Private car service. Any conditions you require. He wasn't pleading. Men like him never begged. But something in his eyes suggested this mattered beyond reason. Why me? You can afford any specialist. You restart hearts with laptop batteries and hand sanitizer. That suggests resourcefulness I find valuable. Ava's logical mind screamed no. Her bank account, stretched thin by her grandmother's medical bills, whispered yes. And something deeper, something she refused to acknowledge, wondered what might happen. One night, professional capacity only. I leave when I choose, she said finally. His private elevator ascended 87 floors, each illuminated number widening the gap between her world of hospital corridors and his realm of panoramic city views where Atlanta's lights mimicked the stars neither of them could see. His hand at the small of her back as he guided her through the penthouse doorway felt both protective and possessive, a touch that burned through her scrubs like a brand. The suite was minimalist luxury, all clean lines and calculated comfort. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Atlanta sprawled below, like a glittering map of possibilities. You live like this all the time? She asked, feeling suddenly small in her wrinkled scrubs. I exist in spaces like this, he corrected, removing his suit jacket. I wouldn't call it living. I never bring anyone here, he admitted, closing the door behind them. This is where I hide from everyone. The confession hung between them, heavy with implications neither was ready to acknowledge. Would you step into a world completely different from yours if invited? When has curiosity overcome your caution? Tell me about a time you took a risk that changed everything. Two people from different worlds discovered something unexpected over takeout containers and confessions. That loneliness feels the same regardless of your bank balance. Ava sat cross-legged on the floor, despite the expensive furniture surrounding them. Logan, jacket discarded and sleeves rolled up, joined her there as they ate Thai food straight from cartons. You're staring, she noted, catching his gaze for the third time. You're nothing like I expected, he admitted. Let me guess. You thought I'd be impressed by all this. She gestured around the penthouse. A rare smile crossed his face. Most people are. I work in emergency medicine. Takes more than fancy views to impress me. Night pressed against floor-to-ceiling windows as their shadows stretched across imported marble, two silhouettes gradually leaning toward each other as hours dissolved into minutes and strangers transformed into something undefined yet unmistakably significant. Between bites of food, barriers fell. He spoke of childhood foster homes in Massachusetts, of building his first computer from discarded parts, of creating an empire because belonging nowhere meant he had to build his own kingdom. The company was never about money, he explained, voice dropping to a register that felt like shared secrets. It was about control, creating something that couldn't be taken away. Ava nodded, understanding survival instincts. She told him about working 3 jobs through nursing school, about her grandmother in Birmingham who raised her after her parents died, about nights when choosing between gas money and dinner meant walking home hungry. Different paths, she mused. Same destination. Which is, he asked, alone at the top of whatever mountain we've been climbing. Something shifted between them, recognition perhaps. The realization that despite vastly different circumstances, they both understood what it meant to fight your way forward while looking backward. Why nursing? He asked as midnight approached. Because on the worst day of someone's life, I get to be the person who says not today. I get to push back against endings. He moved closer, the space between them electric with possibility. Like you did for me. That was different, she whispered. Ow, I wasn't supposed to feel anything. His hand found hers, thumb brushing over her knuckles. And now, her fingers traced the scar on his chest. Evidence of a childhood surgery he'd never told anyone about, as his mouth found the pulse point on her neck where her vulnerabilities lay just beneath the surface. Their first kiss tasted like possibility. Tentative until it wasn't, restrained until restraint shattered. His hands cupped her face with unexpected gentleness, but when she pressed closer, something broke loose in him. They moved from floor to couch in a tangle of need and discovery. Each touch was a question asked and answered. Each piece of clothing removed, a barrier broken. Her scrub top, his dress shirt, maps of skin revealed and explored with increasing urgency. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her collarbone. "I can't," she admitted, pulling him closer. Their bodies found rhythm in contradiction. Soft against hard, yield against take, give against receive. Professional boundaries dissolved under hungry mouths and seeking hands until nothing existed but sensation and connection. Well, have you connected with someone who seemed your complete opposite? What unexpected similarities did you discover? Share your story below. The sapphire necklace felt heavy in her palm. Too heavy to take, too meaningful to leave. As she stood in pre-dawn shadows watching him sleep, memorizing features she knew she could never allow herself to see again. Ava moved silently through the penthouse, gathering scattered clothing, erasing evidence of her presence. Her body ached pleasantly, memories of his touch still electric on her skin. But her mind had cleared with the approaching dawn, reality cutting through night's magic like a scalpel. This was temporary, a collision of worlds never meant to overlap. What happened in darkness couldn't survive daylight. She paused at the window, watching sunrise paint Atlanta in gold and promise. From his height, everything looked possible, but Ava knew better. She'd spent her life with both feet firmly planted in reality. Behind her, Logan slept deeply. Vulnerability, softening features that commanded boardrooms and business empires. In sleep, the mask of control fell away, revealing the man beneath. "This can't happen," she whispered to his sleeping form. Last night replayed in fragments. His confession about never bringing anyone to his private spaces, the surprising calluses on his hands when they traced her curves, the way he'd looked at her, not as a conquest, but as an equal. Ava pressed her hand to her stomach, a gesture of protection against a possibility too new to confirm, but too real to ignore. Women in her profession recognized the signs earlier than most. The timing of her cycle, the subtle changes already beginning. The probability was small, but present, like winning a lottery nobody would celebrate. Morning light crept across the horizon, painting Boston's skyline in watercolor promises of a day she wouldn't stay to see, as her reflection in the window overlapped with his sleeping form. Two images impossibly merged, yet destined to separate. She moved to the bedside, allowing herself one final moment. Her fingers hovered above his cheek, but didn't touch. Connection without contact, goodbye without words. On the nightstand lay the sapphire necklace he'd shown her last night. His mother's, he'd said. The only thing he had of hers. He'd offered it as a thank you. A gesture she'd refused, then accepted, then refused again. Now it sat there, blue stones catching dawn's first light. A reminder of what couldn't be. Ava considered options with clinical precision. Staying meant complications, media attention, class differences, expectations she couldn't fulfill. Leaving meant simplicity, but solitude. And if her suspicions proved correct, a child raised without knowing its father. Some gifts cost too much to accept, she murmured, setting the necklace back on the nightstand. She gathered her bag, checked for anything forgotten, and moved to the door. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though gravity increased with distance from his sleeping form. At the threshold, she allowed herself one backward glance, one memory to carry forward. She closed the door silently behind her, leaving behind three things. The sapphire necklace he'd offered, the memory of a connection neither had expected, and the possibility of a life growing inside her that would forever bind them, though he might never know. Have you ever walked away from something beautiful because it seemed impossible? What did you leave behind? Did you regret it? I want to hear your stories. He built his fortune finding patterns in chaos, but her disappearance defied every algorithm he created. a ghost who existed in hospital records one day and vanished completely the next. Logan Pierce didn't accept defeat, not in business, not in technology innovation, and certainly not in finding the woman who'd saved his life twice. Once in an airport terminal and again in his private sanctuary, where she'd somehow breached walls built over decades. Nothing, his head of security reported, dropping a thin file on Logan's desk. She resigned from the hospital the morning after. No forwarding address. Phone disconnected. Credit cards unused. That's impossible. Logan snapped, frustration sharpening his tone. People don't disappear. This one did. Logan stared out his Boston office window. The city spread before him like a circuit board of connections and possibilities. For weeks, he deployed resources typically reserved for corporate acquisitions. Private investigators, data analytics, financial traces. Ava Johnson had evaporated like morning fog. His office walls disappeared beneath maps, timelines, and dead-end leads. A visual representation of his fracturing focus as Boston's skyline witnessed his transformation from calculated businessman to man consumed. During board meetings, his mind wandered to her laugh. While reviewing quarterly projections, he remembered her fingers tracing his scars. In the middle of investor calls, he found himself touching the empty space on his nightstand where his mother's necklace had lain. The necklace Ava had left behind. "Sir," his assistant interrupted his thoughts. "The board is requesting your presence." Again, Logan nodded absently, straightening his tie as dreams of soft brown skin and challenging eyes dissolved into corporate responsibility. "Also," she continued carefully, "there are rumors of unusual activity within the financial department. Suspicious transfers. Marcus suggested you might want to review them personally." But Logan was already lost again, remembering Ava's words about mountains and loneliness, about pushing back against endings. "Sir, schedule a meeting with Marcus tomorrow," he said, focus returning momentarily, "and double the resources on the Johnson search." His assistant hesitated. "The board is concerned about your preoccupation. There's talk of intervention." Logan's expression hardened. "My company, my resources." Nights blurred into days as search parameters expanded. Atlanta to Birmingham to Memphis to Houston. Each potential sighting raising hopes, subsequently crushed. When the board called an emergency meeting about his concerning behavior, Logan realized someone within his company was using his distraction against him. But the anonymous tip about a nurse matching Ava's description in Dallas arrived the same morning, forcing an impossible choice. What's the furthest you've gone to find someone who disappeared from your life? Was it worth it? Would you do it again? She created a new life in two senses, reinventing herself in a city where nobody knew her name while watching her belly swell with evidence of a night she couldn't forget. Dallas welcomed Ava with anonymous arms. Just another face in a sea of healthcare workers, another apartment in endless rows of identical units. Perfect for disappearing. The pregnancy test confirmed what her body already knew. 2 pink lines appeared before the timer even finished. Definitive, life-changing. She pressed her forehead against the cool bathroom tile, overwhelmed by equal parts terror and wonder. "It's just us now," she whispered to her still flat stomach. Each decision afterward came with clinical precision. New phone, cash-only transactions when possible. Night shifts at a children's clinic on the city's south side. Less pay, but better hours for a single mother. A new last name, Wilson, common enough to hide within. The small apartment gradually transformed from empty rooms to a home filled with secondhand furniture and handmade decorations. A nest built by determination, as Dallas seasons changed outside windows, always checked twice for watching eyes. Her body transformed too, the subtle curve becoming pronounced, skin stretching to accommodate new life. Each change a reminder of blue eyes and gentle hands, of whispered confessions against expensive sheets. At night, her dreams betrayed her resolve. Logan's touch ghosted across her skin, his voice in her ear, phantom sensations that left her gasping awake, sheets twisted around her legs, desire and regret tangled in her chest. "This is better," she told her reflection as her belly grew. Safer. But safer for whom? The question haunted quiet moments between shifts. For the baby, certainly. A child born to a billionaire would face scrutiny, expectations, complications. For Logan? Perhaps. His focus needed to remain on his company, not an unexpected family. For herself? The answer changed daily. When the baby kicked for the first time, a flutter like butterfly wings beneath her ribs, Ava broke down in the break room, crying silently into folded scrubs. A life growing inside her. Half her, half him. A connection that couldn't be severed regardless of distance. You okay, honey? Asked an older nurse, concern creasing her eyes. Just pregnancy hormones, Ava lied, wiping away tears. Her son arrived during a summer thunderstorm. 7 pounds, 4 ounces of pink skin, and surprisingly strong lungs. When the nurse placed him in her arms, time stopped. The universe condensed to this single moment, this perfect being. Elijah, she whispered, counting tiny fingers. Elijah Logan Wilson. The birth announcement she typed, but never sent, sat saved on her laptop, cursor blinking accusingly beside words she couldn't delete. His name is Elijah Logan Johnson, and he has your eyes. When have you rebuilt your life from scratch? What gave you the strength to start over? Share your journey of resilience. While he searched for a woman across the country, enemies gathered in the conference room down the hall, using his distraction as their weapon. Logan's company suffered from his divided attention. Stock prices dipped. Innovation stalled. Board members whispered concerns about leadership focus, about the maps and private investigator reports visible in his office. We need to discuss the CEO situation. Marcus Reynolds, the acting CFO, announced during a closed executive meeting. Pierce hasn't been himself for months. The glass-walled conference room became a battlefield of calculated smiles and hidden agendas, documents passing between manicured hands as whispers traveled behind boardroom doors, while Logan's thoughts remained fixed on a hospital break room 2 states away. His search for this nurse has consumed resources better allocated elsewhere. Marcus continued, sliding financial reports across polished mahogany. Our shareholders deserve better. None mentioned the unusual financial transfers happening after hours. None questioned Marcus's sudden interest in Logan's personal matters. None connected the leaked information about Logan's obsession to tabloid headlines questioning his stability. Logan noticed a pattern one sleepless Tuesday night, reviewing company records while surrounded by search updates. Small discrepancies, delayed reports, information moving through channels it shouldn't. Someone's preparing for a takeover, he told his most trusted security advisor. Find out who. The next morning, he noticed women in the elevator, the coffee shop, business meetings, all with similar features. Dark skin, curly hair, kind eyes. His attraction to Ava's physical type had become a fixation, leaving him frustrated and restless. His phone buzzed with an update from the Dallas investigator, another dead end. Another Ava Johnson who wasn't his Ava Johnson. Mr. Pierce, his assistant, interrupted. The board insists on your presence at the quarterly review. They're waiting. Logan straightened his tie, locked his office, and headed to the conference room. His presentation was flawless despite his distraction, years of practice masking inner turmoil with outer confidence. Until Marcus asked the carefully targeted question, "Can you explain why company resources are being used for a personal search?" Silence fell across the room. The trap sprung. "My personal matters remain personal," Logan replied, voice cold. "My company's resources remain mine to direct. The shareholders are welcome to sell their positions if they're concerned." Logan stood, buttoning his jacket. "This meeting is concluded." Later that night, his personal line rang, a number only 5 people possessed. "We found something," his investigator said without preamble. "A new hire at a Dallas children's clinic. Different last name, but the biometrics match your description." Logan's heart hammered against his ribs. "You're certain?" 98%. "But there's something else you should know." Before the investigator could continue, Logan's security system alerted him to a breach in the company's financial servers. someone downloading files at 2 a.m., someone with executive clearance. The private investigator's report contained just 3 elements: a grainy security photo of a woman with a child, a Dallas Children's Clinic employee badge, and an invitation to a charity gala where she would be working. The perfect trap if you move quickly. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted professionally? How did you discover their deception? What happened next? With each passing month, her son's features betrayed her secret. His eyes, his smile, the determined set of his jaw when frustrated, all reflections of a man who lived in news headlines she avoided like poison. Elijah grew from infant to toddler with determination that reminded Ava daily of his father. The stubborn tilt of his head when challenged. The focused intensity when examining something new. The charm that melted strangers' hearts in grocery store lines. "He looks just like his daddy," an elderly woman commented once, smiling at Elijah's copper-brown curls and striking blue eyes. Ava had frozen, heart-pounding. Yes, she finally managed. He does. She kept their life small but rich. Their apartment filled with books and music rather than expensive toys. Weekends at the park rather than crowded attractions where cameras might lurk. A routine built for safety yet filled with joy. Sunlight streamed through park trees, illuminating copper-brown curls and creating shadows beneath cheekbones that matched those of a man whose face occasionally appeared on magazine covers. She quickly flipped past in grocery checkout lines. "Mama up," Elijah demanded, arms raised toward climbing equipment beyond his reach. "You could do it yourself," she encouraged, hands ready to catch him if needed. "Remember what we practice? Try first," he repeated solemnly before attempting the climb, face set with determination so familiar it made her chest ache. Each milestone brought equal measures of pride and panic. His first steps, first words, first full sentence. "I did it myself," proclaimed with unmistakable Pierce confidence. At night, after tucking him in a bed surrounded by stuffed animals and constellation night lights, Ava often sat alone on her small balcony. The Texas sky spread vast above her, stars visible despite city lights, solitude heavy on her shoulders. 2 years of chosen isolation had created a life both fulfilling and incomplete. No dating, no close friends, no family beyond her son. The weight of secrets and single parenthood left little room for personal connections. Her body remembered touch, Logan's touch specifically, in moments of weakness. The phantom press of lips against her neck. Hands exploring curves now marked with motherhood's evidence. The space beside her in bed remained empty, yet somehow occupied by memory. "Was I right?" she asked the stars sometimes. "To keep you from him? To keep him from you?" Elijah provided no easy answers, only complications wrapped in innocence. His existence both justified her choices and questioned them daily. When the nurse manager announced all staff would be required at the Veterans Charity Gala, an event sponsored by Pierce Technologies, Ava's coffee cup shattered against the break room floor, fragments scattering like her carefully constructed safety. "Everything okay?" a coworker asked, helping clean the mess. "Fine," Ava lied, heart racing. "Just clumsy today." That night, she held Elijah longer before bed, breathing in his sweet child scent, studying features that grew more like Logan's each day. "I'll always protect you," she promised in his soft curls, "no matter what happens next." Single parents, what's the most challenging part of raising a child alone? What unexpected joys have you discovered? Share your experience below. 2 years of searching ended in 3 seconds of eye contact across a crowded ballroom. Her heart stopping as it started racing, recognition traveling between them like lightning striking twice. The Veterans Charity Gala transformed Dallas's finest hotel into a showcase of wealth and philanthropy. Stars and stripes hung alongside crystal chandeliers. Military medals displayed beside designer gowns. Corporate logos projected onto marble walls, including Pierce Technologies' distinctive blue emblem. Ava worked backstage in the medical support area, treating minor emergencies and monitoring elderly veterans. Her station, hidden behind thick curtains, felt safely removed from the main event. until Elijah's babysitter called with an emergency. "I'm so sorry." The teenager apologized through the phone. "My mom was in a car accident. I have to leave right now. I'll be there as soon as possible." Ava promised, heart sinking as she calculated options. None good. 20 minutes later, she stood backstage with Elijah clutching her leg, wide-eyed at the unfamiliar surroundings, toy trucks clutched in his small hands. "Just a little longer, baby," she soothed, keeping him hidden behind equipment cases. "Mama has to work." The head nurse frowned, but said nothing about the child's presence. Short-staffed and overwhelmed, she needed every medical professional available. Ava kept Elijah occupied with snacks and whispered stories, constantly glancing toward the main ballroom where speeches droned on. Just one more hour. Then freedom. The universe had other plans. A commotion erupted on stage, a veteran collapsing during his speech. Medical teams rushed forward. Curtains parted. Barriers between worlds fell. Crystal chandeliers threw fractured light across the ballroom's polished floor, creating a glittering battlefield where wealth and power mingled obliviously, while two people stood frozen in time, separated by 2 years and 300 guests, but connected by an invisible thread that had never broken. Logan Pierce stood center stage, helping the fallen veteran to a chair when movement caught his eye. Something familiar in the efficient gestures of a backstage nurse. Their eyes met across the distance. Time stopped. 2 years vanished like smoke. Ava's lungs forgot how to function. Her body remembered him before her mind could process the shock. Heart racing, skin warming, stomach dropping in free-fall recognition. Logan's composure shattered for 3 crucial seconds before iron control reasserted itself. But those seconds revealed everything: shock, relief, hunger, hurt, emotions too raw for public display. He moved toward her with single-minded purpose, cutting through crowds of Dallas elite with the focus of a missile locked on target. Panic propelled Ava backward, reaching blindly for Elijah, pulling him protectively behind equipment cases. "Mama?" Elijah questioned, sensing her fear. "It's okay, baby," she lied, scanning desperately for escape routes. Too late. Logan navigated backstage access with the authority of a major donor. Staff stepped aside, doors opened, security guards nodded respectfully. As Logan moved purposefully through the crowd toward her, Ava backed against the wall where Elijah played with toy trucks, unaware his entire world was about to change, until a camera flash captured all 3 of them in the same frame. A family portrait they'd never posed for. Have you ever locked eyes with someone from your past unexpectedly? Did your body react before your mind could process it? Tell me about that moment of recognition. The service corridor provided no escape from the questions in his eyes. Questions that burned through pretense and pleasantries until only raw truth remained between them, alongside a child who couldn't be denied. Ava, her name on his lips after 2 years, half statement, half accusation. She stepped in front of Elijah instinctively, shielding him from the intensity of Logan's gaze. "This isn't the place." 2 years. His voice remained controlled despite the muscle jumping in his jaw. "You disappeared." The narrow hallway shrank with each word exchanged, industrial lighting casting harsh shadows across faces that had softened in memory, but now hardened in reality, while curious staff pretended not to watch the collision of worlds occurring beside stacked chairs and folded tablecloths. Mr. Pierce, a security guard, approached cautiously. "Everything all right, sir?" "Fine," Logan snapped without looking away from Ava. "Give us privacy." Staff scattered like startled birds, leaving them alone in the corridor. 3 people connected by blood and secrets and unspoken words. Elijah peered around Ava's legs, curiosity overcoming shyness. "Who dat?" he asked, pointing at Logan with innocent directness. Logan's expression transformed completely at the child's voice. Shocked, wonder, calculation. His gaze dropped to study Elijah's features. The blue eyes identical to his own, the determined chin, the familiar shape of his forehead. "My name is Logan," he answered softly, crouching to the boy's level. "What's yours?" "Elijah." the toddler answered, suddenly shy. Elijah. Ava corrected automatically, her hand protectively on her son's shoulder. Logan's eyes flicked up to meet hers. Elijah, he repeated, significance heavy in his tone. The name they discussed during their night together. Logan's grandfather's name. We need to leave, Ava said, gathering Elijah's small backpack. Running again? Logan stood, blocking her path. That seems to be your specialty. You don't understand. Make me understand. His voice dropped, intensity increasing rather than diminishing. You saved my life. We shared something real. Then you vanished without a word, taking my... He stopped, glancing at Elijah, censoring himself. Not here, Ava pleaded. There are cameras everywhere. Then where? When? Another 2 years from now. Anger flashed through her, hot and unexpected. You think this was easy? You think I wanted to? I don't know what to think because you never gave me a chance. Their bodies moved closer with each heated exchange, the gap between them narrowing physically as emotions expanded to fill the space. His cologne, the same from that night, wrapped around her senses, triggering memories her body hadn't forgotten. Mama. Elijah tugged her scrubs, lower lip trembling at the tension. Ava forced herself to breathe, to calm, to remember the child witnessing this clash of titans. I can explain, she said finally, voice steadier. But not here. Not like this. Logan's expression hardened, then softened in quick succession. My hotel suite. Now, we'll talk there. I can't just. You can. His tone left no room for argument. And you will. I've spent 2 years searching for you, Ava. I'm not waiting another minute for answers. Something in his controlled desperation broke through her defenses. The raw need behind his demand. The hurt she'd caused despite her intentions. She reached for Elijah, lifting him protectively. The boy curled against her shoulder, watching Logan with undisguised curiosity. Logan moved closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, close enough that memories of skin against skin flashed unbidden through her mind. Is he mine? Logan demanded, voice breaking on the final word. Before Ava could answer, her phone rang with an emergency alert. Someone had accessed her apartment, triggering the security system she'd installed to protect the very secret now exposed. When was the last time anger and attraction battled within you simultaneously? How did you handle those conflicting emotions? Share your experience. By morning, their faces dominated every news outlet in America. The tech mogul, the mystery nurse, and the child whose existence raised questions nobody was prepared to answer. Ava stared at the television in Logan's hotel suite, numb with shock. The security alert had been just the beginning. Someone had not only broken into her apartment, but leaked their reunion to the press. How did they find us so quickly? She whispered, clutching Elijah, who slept peacefully despite the chaos. Logan paced by the window, phone pressed to his ear, issuing rapid-fire commands to his security team. His jacket discarded, tie loosened, he looked less like a billionaire CEO and more like a man under siege. The gala was live-streamed, he explained, ending the call. Someone recognized you. Connected the dots. Television screens throughout the hotel lobby flashed with their images. Smartphones chimed with breaking news alerts, and social media exploded with speculation as they huddled in his secure suite. Window blinds drawn against telephoto lenses and helicopter cameras seeking the story of the year. Headlines scrolled across the screen. Pierce Air discovered? Tech billionaire's secret family. Mystery woman identified as former Atlanta nurse. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Ava said, voice breaking. This is why I left. Logan's expression softened as he watched her stroke Elijah's curls. You could have told me. We could have faced it together. Really? She looked up, eyes challenging. The famous Logan Pierce with an unexpected child by a nobody nurse? The media would have torn us apart. You're not a nobody, he said fiercely, and I would have protected you both. His phone buzzed again, another call from his Boston office. The crisis expanding beyond personal to professional. Your company needs you, Ava observed. You and Elijah need me more. The certainty in his voice made her chest tighten. Outside, reporters gathered in growing numbers. Hotel security doubled, then tripled. Logan's private team secured the floor, checking credentials of everyone who approached. Ava's phone lit up with messages from the children's clinic, reporters swarming there too, asking questions about Nurse Wilson's relationship with Logan Pierce. "My job," she whispered, reality crashing down. "My apartment, our whole life in Dallas. I'll fix it," Logan promised, sitting beside her on the couch, careful not to wake Elijah. "Whatever you need." The proximity sent awareness skittering across her skin. His scent, his warmth, his presence overwhelming after 2 years of absence. "You can't fix this," she said softly. "Some things can't be controlled, even by you." His laptop chimed with an urgent message. Security footage from her apartment building. Men in dark clothing removing files, photographs, personal items. "This wasn't random," Logan said, studying the footage. "This was targeted." Ava's blood ran cold. "Who would? I know who's behind this," Logan said, showing her internal company emails exposing the betrayal. "But I don't understand why they broke into your apartment unless..." His voice trailed off as horrifying understanding dawned. "They're looking for proof that could destroy us both." "What proof?" Ava asked, fear climbing her spine. Logan's expression darkened. "The night we met, the real reason I was in Atlanta. I was investigating financial irregularities pointing to corporate espionage. If Marcus has those files..." "Who's Marcus?" "My CFO. The man who's been systematically undermining me while I searched for you." Logan ran a hand through his hair. "He's been planning this for months, using my distraction against me." Elijah stirred, blinking sleepily up at them both. His small hand reached out, touching Logan's face with innocent curiosity. "Blue eyes," he observed solemnly. "Like mine." The simple statement hung in the air between them, truth from the mouth of a child. Logan swallowed hard, emotion raw on his face as he gently covered Elijah's tiny hand with his own. "Yes," he agreed softly, "just like yours." How would you handle suddenly being thrust into the public eye? What would you protect first if your privacy was invaded? Let me know in the comments. They became reluctant allies against a common enemy. Former strangers, former lovers, current co-parents forced to trust each other with everything that mattered. "We need to move," Logan announced as dawn broke. "This location is compromised." Ava nodded, exhaustion etched in the shadows beneath her eyes. A night of explanations, accusations, and tentative understanding had left them both drained but united in purpose, protecting Elijah. Within hours, Logan's security team escorted them through service corridors to a waiting helicopter. Elijah, thrilled by the adventure, bounced excitedly in Ava's arms. "Flying, Mama. We flying." Her smile for her son didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, baby, an adventure." The lakeside safe house stood isolated among pine trees, windows reflecting water and sky rather than city lights, creating a sanctuary where time seemed suspended as they formed an unlikely family unit against gathering threats. "Nobody knows about this place," Logan explained, carrying sleeping Elijah inside. "Not even my executive team." Ava followed, taking in a rustic luxury, less opulent than his penthouse, but somehow more personal. Family photos, well-worn books, a space where Logan Pierce the man existed rather than Logan Pierce the CEO. "You have a life I know nothing about," she realized aloud. "That makes two of us," he replied without accusation, gently laying Elijah on a couch. They established an uneasy routine over the next days. Logan working remotely, building a counteroffensive against Marcus's takeover attempt. Ava caring for Elijah while monitoring news coverage of their situation. "They're calling me a gold digger," she said one evening, closing the laptop in disgust. "People fear what they don't understand," Logan replied, looking up for financial documents. "They need simple narratives. There's nothing simple about this." Their eyes met across the room, acknowledgement of the complex reality they faced. Co-parents without a relationship, lovers without a future, partners by necessity rather than choice. Yet something shifted as days passed. Logan's gentle patience with Elijah, Ava's grudging respect for Logan's strategic mind. Share meals, quiet conversations after Elijah slept. The gradual rebuilding of trust brick by careful brick. He has your laugh, Logan observed one night, watching Ava tuck Elijah into bed. And your kindness. He has your stubbornness, she countered, but her smile softened the words. Later, with Elijah asleep and the house quiet except for rain tapping against windows, they sat before the fireplace, glasses of wine in hand, the distance between them on the couch smaller than previous nights. Why didn't you tell me? Logan asked finally, the question that had haunted him for 2 years. Ava stared into her wine. I was scared. Of me, of us, of what it meant. She looked up, vulnerability naked in her eyes. I grew up watching my mother sacrifice everything for a man who gave nothing back. I promised myself I'd never be that woman. I would have given you everything, Logan said quietly. That's exactly what terrified me. Understanding passed between them. The fear of dependency, of losing oneself in another's orbit. The fire crackled in comfortable silence until Logan's hand found hers on the couch between them. A simple touch, electric with memory and possibility. I missed you, he admitted, voice rough with emotion. Not just because of Elijah. Because of you. The confession broke something loose inside her. Walls carefully constructed over 2 years crumbling under the weight of truth. Their kiss began tentatively, a question asked and answered. Then hunger took over. 2 years of absence, of wondering, of imagining compressed into desperate touches and whispered needs. Clothes fell away as they rediscovered each other's bodies, changes noted and celebrated. The curve of her hips fuller after childbirth. The new scar on his shoulder from a surgery she hadn't known about. Is this okay? He whispered against her neck. Yes, she breathed, pulling him closer. They moved together with the familiarity of old lovers and the excitement of new discovery, rewriting their story with each touch, each gasp, each moment of connection. Afterward, wrapped in blankets before the dying fire, Ava traced patterns on his chest, peace settling over her for the first time in years. There's something about that night in Atlanta I never told you, something that explains why I really ran. Before she could continue, Logan's phone rang with an alert that someone had breached his company's most secure server, where he'd stored all evidence of their connection. When have circumstances forced you to trust someone you weren't sure you could? Did that forced reliance strengthen or weaken your connection? Share your story. Nothing transforms a man faster than discovering he has a child to protect. Not even learning that his company's acting CFO orchestrated his potential downfall. He accessed everything, Logan said grimly, fingers flying across his laptop keyboard. Financial records, personal files, the security footage from Atlanta. Ava paced the safe house living room, anxiety tightening her shoulders. What does that mean for us? It means Marcus isn't just after my company. He's after leverage. Logan looked up, expression hard. He's using you and Elijah as weapons against me. Morning sunlight streamed through pine trees surrounding the property, creating dappled patterns across the wooden floor where Elijah played with blocks, oblivious to the crisis unfolding around him. What does he want? Ava asked, keeping her voice low. Control. Power. Logan's jaw tightened, and he's willing to expose everything, including Elijah, to get it. Computer screens illuminated their faces in electronic blue light as they executed their counterattack from the safe house kitchen table. Digital battlefields replacing boardrooms while Elijah slept peacefully upstairs, unaware his future was being fought for with keystrokes and legal maneuvers. Logan worked with cold precision, years of business strategy channeled into personal defense. Conference calls with trusted board members. Encrypted messages to security teams. Financial maneuvers to protect assets. Ava watched him transform. CEO to father, businessman to protector. With a focus that left no room for doubt or hesitation. I need to address the board directly, Logan decided, straightening his tie before the video call. Show them exactly what Marcus has been doing. Ava squeezed his hand briefly. Be careful. The video conference began with tension thick enough to touch. Board members' faces filled the screen, some concerned, some suspicious, all waiting for explanation. Before Marcus joins, Logan began, I want to show you something. With methodical precision, he presented evidence of financial manipulation, unauthorized transfers, falsified reports, stock manipulation designed to weaken the company while strengthening Marcus's position. This isn't about my personal life, Logan concluded. This is about systematic betrayal of shareholder trust. When Marcus finally joined the call, his confident smile faltered at the united front facing him. You've been busy, Marcus, Logan said coolly. Care to explain these discrepancies? I was protecting the company from your distraction, Marcus countered, recovering quickly. While you chased your personal interests, someone needed to maintain control. By stealing from the company? By leaking private information to the press? Marcus's smile turned ugly. The public deserves to know their tech genius has an abandoned child. A child you never acknowledged. Ava stepped in a frame beside Logan, chin raised defiantly. He never abandoned anyone. He didn't know. Her presence silenced the virtual room. The mystery woman, now real and resolute. Ms. Johnson made her own choices. Logan continued smoothly. Choices I respect, even if I wish they'd been different. But that's our personal matter, not company business. The board voted unanimously to suspend Marcus pending investigation. His access revoked, his threats neutralized, his power dismantled in 20 efficient minutes. When the call ended, Logan and Ava stood in stunned silence. The victory almost too sudden to process. Is it over? She asked cautiously. The immediate threat, yes. Logan closed his laptop. The rest, that's up to us. Relief coursed through them both, tension releasing in a rush of shared laughter that turned to something more urgent. His hands cupped her face. Her fingers gripped his shirt. We did it, he murmured against her lips. Together, she agreed, pulling him closer. Their celebration was both tender and fierce, gratitude and desire mingling as clothes fell away and bodies pressed close, reaffirming life and connection amid chaos. With the betrayal neutralized and his company secured, Logan turned to Ava with determination in his eyes. No more secrets between us. Tell me everything, starting with why you disappeared when I would have given you anything to stay. What would you sacrifice to protect your family? How far would you go against those threatening what matters most? Tell me about a time you became the protector. Sometimes truth arrives not in thunderous revelation, but in whispered confession. Hers came between heartbeats as she finally explained the real reason she vanished without goodbye. They sat facing each other on the lake house deck, stars emerging overhead, Elijah's monitor nearby, confirming his peaceful sleep. The night wrapped around them like a blanket, private, protective, patient. I need you to understand something, Ava began, hands clasped tightly in her lap. My leaving wasn't about you. Not really. Logan waited, giving her space to find words for wounds long hidden. Before nursing school, I was engaged, she continued, voice steady despite the pain beneath. He was wealthy, connected, everything I wasn't. I thought was love. Moonlight filtered through curtains, painting silver patterns across the floor where they sat facing each other, knees touching, voices low to avoid waking their son, as 2 years of misunderstanding dissolved into clarity sharper than the night stars visible through lake house windows. When I got pregnant, everything changed. He wanted me to end it. When I refused, he threatened to ruin my career, my reputation. Said nobody would believe me over him. Logan's jaw tightened, but he remained silent, letting her story unfold. I lost the baby anyway, Ava said softly, but the lesson stayed with me. Power imbalances destroy relationships. When money and influence all belong to one person, the other becomes disposable. Understanding dawned in Logan's eyes. And then you met me. A billionaire CEO, she confirmed with a sad smile. The ultimate power imbalance. You thought I'd react like he did when you suspected you were pregnant. Ava nodded. I couldn't risk it. Not again. So I left before you could leave me. Logan moved closer, taking her hands in his. "I would never. I know that now," she interrupted gently. "But then, you were a stranger who happened to see parts of me nobody else had. It wasn't enough. And now," he asked, vulnerability raw in his voice, "now you're Elijah's father. The man who searched for 2 years instead of forgetting. The man who protected us both when everything fell apart." Her fingers tightened around his. "You're not a stranger anymore." The confession hung between them. Not just her past trauma, but her present trust. The journey from fear to faith. Logan's hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away tears she hadn't realized were falling. "I want you to know something too," he said. "That night in Atlanta changed me. Not just because of what happened between us, but because for the first time, someone saw me. Not my money, not my company. Just me." Their foreheads touched, breath mingling in the small space between them. "I've spent 2 years building walls to keep people out," Ava whispered, "teaching Elijah to be cautious, to stay hidden. And I've spent 2 years searching for the one person who made me feel found," Logan replied. Their kiss tasted of forgiveness and possibility, gentle at first, then deepening with renewed understanding. His hands traced paths of rediscovery across her body. Her fingers mapped the contours of his face, his shoulders, his heart. They moved inside to his bedroom, closing the door softly behind them. Each touch carried new meaning, not just desire but declaration, not just passion but promise. "Stay," he whispered against her skin. "I'm not running anymore," she answered, pulling him closer. Their bodies remembered each other despite the years between. Curves fitting against angles, rhythms finding harmony, two people becoming one whole in the darkness. Afterward, wrapped in sheets and each other, Logan traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "I want you both in my life, permanently," he murmured. "But I need to know if you're ready to step into my world, camera flashes, public opinion, all of it, or if we need to create something entirely new, together." Her answer would determine 3 futures intertwined by fate and choice. When has fear prevented you from accepting love? How did you overcome that fear? Or are you still working through it? Share your journey below. The woman who once fled before sunrise now stood bathed in morning light, her hands steady as she signed papers that would forever link their lives through more than just the child sleeping upstairs. "Are you sure about this?" Logan asked, watching Ava review the foundation documents. She looked up, certainty in her eyes where doubt once lived. Completely. 3 months had transformed their lives. The media storm eventually calmed, replaced by carefully managed public appearances. Logan's company stabilized under renewed leadership. Ava's nursing license transferred to Massachusetts, where they now lived. Not in Logan's Boston penthouse, but in a home they chose together. The Pierce Family Medical Access Foundation represented their shared vision, combining his resources with her frontline experience to address healthcare inequalities nationwide. "Your signature goes here," the lawyer indicated, sliding papers across the table. Ava signed without hesitation, officially becoming co-director of a foundation that would help thousands of families access medical care they couldn't otherwise afford. "Congratulations," the lawyer said, gathering documents. "The foundation is now active." When they were alone, Logan pulled Ava into his arms. "How does it feel?" "Like coming full circle," she answered, leaning into his embrace. "From saving lives one at a time to changing entire systems." Sunlight streamed through open windows of their new home. Neither his penthouse nor her apartment, but a place chosen together. As Elijah's laughter echoed through rooms decorated with photographs documenting the journey from strangers to family, empty frames waiting for future memories. "Daddy, Mama, look," Elijah called from the garden, proudly holding a caterpillar on a leaf. They watched from the porch as he carefully placed his discovery in the small butterfly habitat they'd built together, Logan teaching engineering principles while Ava explained metamorphosis. "He has your curiosity," Logan observed, arm around Ava's waist. "And your focus," she replied, leaning against his shoulder. The engagement ring on her finger caught morning light. Not an ostentatious diamond, but a sapphire that matched the necklace she'd left behind years ago. A circle completed. Their journey to this moment hadn't been smooth. Therapy sessions to process past traumas. Difficult conversations about parenting styles. Learning to navigate public attention while protecting their privacy. But each challenge strengthened their foundation rather than weakening it. Each obstacle overcome together rather than alone. That night, after tucking Elijah into bed with stories and kisses, they retreated to their bedroom, a sanctuary of shared dreams and whispered promises. Logan's touch had evolved from desperate reunion to confident intimacy, each caress speaking of permanence rather than fleeting connection. Ava's responses had transformed too, open and trusting where once she'd held back, giving fully where once she'd prepared to run. He kissed her with reverence that had deepened, not diminished with time. Each touch a reminder that her body had never been a transaction, but always a temple, worthy of worship even before he recognized its worth. "I never thought we'd get here," she admitted, curled against him afterward. "I never stopped believing we would," he replied, fingers tracing lazy patterns on her skin. Outside their window, Boston's lights twinkled like earthbound stars. Inside, the quiet hum of a home filled with love. Elijah's night light glowing down the hall. Family photos lining shelves, two lives fully intertwined. "The foundation launches next week," Logan murmured, sleep edging his voice. "And the adoption paperwork comes through on Thursday," Ava added, smiling at the thought of Logan legally becoming Elijah's father, though biology had already confirmed what heart knew. Their path forward stretched clear and bright, not without challenges but faced together. Two people who saved each other in different ways. A family built from chance encounter and deliberate choice. What does your happy ending look like? Is it finding someone who completes you or becoming complete yourself and finding someone to share with? Tell me what you believe makes a love story truly fulfilling. Sometimes the most beautiful beginnings come disguised as endings. Sometimes running away leads you exactly where you need to be. And sometimes saving a stranger means saving yourself in ways you never imagined. If this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys of love, loss, and redemption. Tell me in the comments which part resonated most with your own life experience.